Yeah, I got duped by Epic Pass. I came to Ski Arlberg because it's a partner resort, and even though I had the full Epic Pass, I ended up having to spend over 360 euros just to ski here for 6 days. Ski Arlberg is pretty cool though, but there are some negatives. Let's talk about all that right now. Alright, some of you may be saying, it's your fault that you had to pay the extra 360 euros because you didn't read the fine print. Ski Arlberg is one of those Epic Pass resorts where you have to stay at a partner accommodation in order to be able to use your pass. And that's right, I thought I read the fine print, but I guess I didn't. I did the prior year when I went to Verbier, another Epic resort where they have the same requirement. To tell you the truth, it's kind of a drag. Ikon Pass doesn't have these restrictions at their partner resorts. And with Epic, it's inconsistent. You can go to Les Trois Vallées and ski aboard for 7 days with no restriction. But if you go to Ski Arlberg or Verbier, you have to stay at certain accommodations. When I went to Verbier, I didn't use my Epic Pass because I found cheaper and better accommodations. Overall, I saved money even though I had to buy a pass. So this is the first negative for Ski Arlberg. If you are an Epic Pass holder, you have to stay at designated accommodations in order to use your pass. Ski Arlberg is a network of interconnected mountains and towns like St. Anton, St. Christoph, Zurs, Lech, and Warth. So you're connecting from village to village over a bunch of different ridges. I found the trail map hard to read, and I've read a lot of trail maps. Figuring out how to go from mountain to mountain is sometimes puzzling based on the way it's laid out. And I don't think I'm alone. People are always checking out the trail map. Ultimately, it took me being here in person and seeing the mountains to figure it out. And what I learned is that the layout of Ski Arlberg can be compared to the letter C, with St. Anton being on one end and Warth being on the other. So let's talk about a second potential negative, connectivity. The various mountains of Ski Arlberg may not be as connected as you assume. Example number 1, if you're going in the direction from Warth to St. Anton, when you get to Lech, you're going to have to take off your skier board and walk about 400 meters through the town. Or if you're headed in the opposite direction when you get to Lech, and you're on ski route 173, you'll have to take off your skis or board and walk even longer than that. I guess the upside is I get a walking tour of Lech. Example number 2, when you're going from Zurs to St. Anton, you have to take a gondola up, gondola down, and then a chairlift up. Normally, you take a chairlift up, skier board down, chairlift up, skier board down. But here you're taking a gondola up, gondola back down, and then a chairlift up. And it takes about 25 minutes, so it can get frustrating. And you're going to have to do that every time you're heading back to St. Anton if you're staying there. Now, it's not that bad. I got used to it. But I pointed out just in case it will bother you. And if it will, I'd recommend staying at a more central town like Zurs or Lech. Okay, quick demonstration on how long it takes to get from the base of St. Anton to Warth on the opposite side of the sea on the trail map. Galzig-Bahn tram, 8:40 a.m. T-bar. I'm taking slopes number 135 and 136 to avoid an extra chairlift. And we go immediately to the Madlock barn lift. Now over to the Zuber Bergbahn tram, all the way over on the upper left side of the trail map. Zuber Bergbahn is actually a gondola, not a tram. Short rope tow. Now the Auenfeldjet. Straight to the Sonnenjet Hextuple lift. Almost there, maybe one more lift. There's Warth, finally! Woohoo! So it's 11:10 and I just got to the base of Warth. It took me about 2.5 hours to get here from the base of St. Anton. And that's on a day when I started out early in the morning and there are very few lift lines. I'm going as fast as I can, so if you're somebody who's going to take your time, it's probably going to take you a lot longer than 2.5 hours, particularly if there are lift lines. I think that shows how the terrain at Ski Arlberg is a lot more spread out with a lower vertical drop than resorts like Les Trois Vallées, Les Quatre Vallées in Switzerland or Zermatt. I probably could have shaved some time off by cutting a narrower turn in what I refer to as that C shape of the layout towards Lech, but I would have had to walk a bit to Lech and I wanted to avoid that. I wanted to see how long would it take if I just took only lifts and ski. So are the layout and connectivity issues reasons not to come to Ski Arlberg? I don't think so. They're relatively small, you get used to them, And if that's a reason that you're going to use not to come, you're really missing out. One thing I think is really cool about Ski Arlberg is the presence of more extreme type features right next to a regular slope. This may be something that's present at every resort, but I just really noticed it here. All you have to do is sit on the chairlift and look down, and you can see the Groom Slope, and right next to it, you'll have some other feature that you would think you might only find backcountry skiing or in the middle of a really difficult terrain. Why do I think that's so great? Because if you're with a bunch of people who just want to take it easy and you want to go and explore something more difficult, you can jump off the trail, check that out, jump back on with them. So it really opens up options for people who are skiing or boarding together and are at different levels. It's also great if you're somebody who wants to get better by tackling more difficult terrain, but aren't ready yet to go into a really long, difficult slope. Here's an example. In Warth, you have a nice groomed slope, intermediate level. Just off to the side, you can find a more challenging feature that you normally wouldn't be able to find at other resorts. Another great illustration of this is underneath the Muggengrot chairlift. This ends right here. You have a nice groomed slope right here, but at the same time, just over here, you have some more extreme type skiing. It's very short. So anybody you're with who wants to go on a groomed slope can just do that. It's a blue slope. But if you want to get some experience at what could arguably be getting close to a chute. It's not really a chute, but when you're in there, you kind of feel like it is. These series of slopes are very short, only about 10 turns, and you can do them and join right back up with the groomed slope at the end. So no worries, if you get tired, if you decide it's too tough, you could also traverse over. So obviously not a chute, but good baby steps towards one if you've never done one before. Right inbounds, you don't need to worry about going outside into extreme territory and being too tired. I was a little bit handicapped because I've got an invisible selfie stick that's 4 feet long with a camera at the end of it. So my right turns are pretty bad, and maybe all my turns are bad. But if you don't have that, it's a great way just to get a good 10 turns in and practice and get some confidence. And then if you had a good time doing that, right when you join up with the Groom Slopes, you have what is kind of like a cornice or crevasse. I don't know what the right way to describe it is, but you can go in there and get a completely different type of experience. If you are not into it, just take the Groom Slope. I've just noticed these sort of features all over Ski Arlberg, right next to Groom Slopes. It may be that features like this are at every resort and I just haven't noticed them, but it really stood out to me, and I think it's a great selling point for Ski Arlberg. Accommodations. There are obviously a bunch of different talents to choose from. This is not scientific at all, but my sense is that Lech looks like it has the highest number of ski and ski out accommodation options. At St. Anton, the majority of the hotels seem to be in the town, but there are some that are on the mountain. The Mooser Hotel. Now that is really ski in, ski out at St. Anton. One of the reasons I chose St. Anton is that it had more modern accommodation options, at least on the platforms I was using. Lech seemed to have much more rustic, older options. As we've already discussed, if you are concerned more about getting around and navigating the entire Ski Arlberg terrain, you may want to focus on Warth or Lech, which are more central. Warth also seems to have some good options. And what about you partiers? St. Anton is the best option for you. Everywhere you look, there are après ski venues. People grabbing drinks, people having food outside, lounging around. There are bars all throughout the town. Some of them go until 3 a.m. There's live music, you hear singing. Even restaurants that sound like they're a club by the name of them. I know of people who came from Lech to St. Anton to check out the après ski scene. That may say a lot. And I think that may actually be a strip club, which I've never seen at a ski resort before. Obviously, the main spoken language is German, but if you don't speak it, don't worry. Everybody seems to speak English, more so than I've seen at other resorts. One cashier at the grocery store was speaking English to everybody, just by default. Restaurants, they are all over the mountain. The terrain is so spread out, and so are the restaurants. Top of the mountain, bottom of the mountain, mid-mountain, there's a lot to choose from. And when the weather is like it's been all week, nothing but sun, people are out soaking in the rays, having coffee, eating. It's a great scene. And they have all different types of food: Italian, barbecue, and of course Austrian. The Austrian trail map system is marked a little bit differently than in the US. Blue is beginner slopes, red is intermediate, and black is expert. So black is the same, but replace the green in the US with blue here, and replace blue with red. There are two additional types of slopes called ski routes. They're both marked with red diamonds. The red diamonds with the black outline are more extreme. The ski routes are only monitored for avalanche risk. There may be unmarked hazards like exposed rock, trees, dirt, what have you. Yeah, and this is the sort of mischief you might get into if you follow the ski route. So Know that going into it. Now let me show you some examples of the different types of terrain at Ski Arlberg. I have to include one of my favorites, slope number 144 in the Zeus area. It's a red slope, so like a blue intermediate slope in the US. It's just a nice rolling, meandering slope that goes in between incredible scenery on your left and on your right. There are these jagged mountain faces that just make the experience skiing that slope special. And if you look ahead, it's another incredible view. It really reminded me that, hey, you're in Europe skiing on a beautiful slope in the Alps with incredible scenery, just rolling along, getting nice turns, getting some good speed. Totally beautiful. Unfortunately, slope 144 dumps you out on the road. There are a chairlift and gondola across the street, but they're not going to take you back up the mountain face that heads over to Lech. You'll either need to take that up and ski over to those chairlifts, or you're going to have a significant walk. Either way, slope 144 is totally worth it. This is ski route 301, which is over near the Jagger Alp Express in the Warth area. Red diamond outlined in black. That means it's one of their extreme slopes that are not patrolled for obstacles and things like that, only avalanches. This should be no ice, just some crusty snow. Alright, to give you a sense of a blue slope, this is number 235 over on the top left side of the trail map. A little crowded because it's midday, but let's do it.
Don't let go. Chasing a dream.